Given the current situation with the dreaded C word and the fact that so many martial arts instructors and people are going to be looking to move online if they're not already doing so, I thought it might be a good idea to offer some suggestions and advice. And again, given the fact that, you know, we're all in uncharted territory, it'd be really good for people to offer some help if they can. So if you've got a skill set or a skill base that you can bring to bear on this, then it'd be a good idea to share that. So basically, because I've done some online stuff, because I've done some presenting, because I've stood in front of a camera for a bit, I'm kind of happy doing that, and I'm kind of okay with doing that. So one of the things I was going to chat about today, hi guys, for the people that are joining in, how are we doing? One of the things I was going to talk about today was content creation with regards to the online stuff. Now, just had a little chat earlier on with some guys, and there's a lot of fear going around. I mean, there's a lot of martial arts instructors and school owners that are genuinely terrified about what could happen, and myself included. I mean, let's be honest, it's a scary time. So one of the things that we can look at is going online. So how can we facilitate that, you know? So I'm not going to talk to you about IT and technology and what platforms to be on. I think we're all at the point now where we understand that things like Zoom and Thinkific are options for us. What I'm going to talk about is content. What I'm going to talk about is the things that we can put into our course creation and into our online lessons. So, I mean, that's a difficult thing, especially for people that are teaching certain things. So if you're teaching a system or a style where there's a lot of kata, there's a lot of single person work, there's a lot of line work, then it's going to be a little easier for you. If you're teaching a grappling art, if you're teaching physical skills that need a partner, then that's going to be a little bit more difficult. So what I'm offering here is basically a few ideas that you can sort of work with and run with and maybe use or not. Entirely up to you guys. It's just throwing suggestions out there. So one of the things that we want to be looking at is DIY kit. So some of the problems that people are going to face, if they're going to be in their house or in their property or in their garden, what have you, then we've got to look at what space is available to them and what equipment do they have. So as an example, in my gym, I have all hanging bags. I've got all the equipment required. It's a fully matted area. They can jump around. They're not going to break anything. If they're in their front room and I say to them, right, we're going to practice front kick, and they put their foot through the 42-inch TV, that's going to be a problem. So what I've got to do is figure out what space is available for each person. So one of the things I want to make this is very interactive with regards to my membership base. So the intention for me is I'm going to ask them quite specifically. I'm going to say, what space do you have available to train in? Where are you likely to be doing and participating in our online teachings, right? So I'm going to try and look at that, and I'm going to try and help them to manage that space. So I'm going to offer suggestions if I can. Now, that can be the start of the process. So that can be, if you like, lesson number one. So my very first input on this is, how can I help you guys to facilitate moving forward and teaching, right? So I'm going to ask them, I'm going to put that out there, and I'm going to get some suggestions back. So things like DIY kit, that's the next stage for me, is how can I get people to do that? Now, there are pluses and minuses to being an older gentleman. So number one, if you're a younger guy and you've grown up with IT and technology and all these platforms, then it's great because you're already going to be hitting the ground running. If you're slightly older and not from that age group, then you may struggle a bit more with the technological side of it. But hey, here's some good news. We grew up in an age without the internet. We grew up in an age of do-it-yourself. We grew up in an age of building nunchuckers in your dad's shed with a couple of chair legs, right? We can make do. We can DIY. So that's the next stage of what I'm suggesting some people might want to do, is to actually look at DIY solutions to training things. So as an example of that, if you took a load of old newspapers and you shoved it into an old cushion cover, you've got yourself a basic Makawara or striking platform, and you can pick that up and take that wherever you go. So if you think about sandbags, if you think about Makawaras, that's one example of that. Okay, so if you think about learning sort of, say, grappling arts and throwing, an example would be, well, actually, you take a duvet cover, you stuff that with 4 or 5 pillows, tie a knot in the top, and all of a sudden you've got a 6-foot partner that you can practice getting your hips under. You can practice dropping down, taking that shape. So you can work on techniques with that. So then I would suggest looking at your syllabus itself. And what I would suggest that you do with that is that you break that down into stages. So basically, if you're a white belt, you look at the white belt syllabus. If you're a brown belt, you look at the brown belt syllabus, and you go, right, I'm going to film the syllabuses individually, and then I'm going to break down the techniques within that. And then what I'm going to do is look at how I can facilitate the learning of that. So what techniques within that, what can I do within that, and make them one-person drills. So I'm starting to build content moving forward. Okay. Then on top of that, we're going to look at outsourcing ideas. Now, I suggest you guys do what I've been doing, which is get onto YouTube, get onto wherever you can find this information, and start looking at other people that runs kids classes, you know, yoga for kids, dance for kids, football, whatever, and start taking ideas from that with regards to drills and skills. Okay. There are loads of good things out there and loads of things that we can utilize. Yeah. So I would be looking at that as well. And then I'd be looking at other elements of what we do. Now, guys, as an example of this, how many of us as martial arts instructors sit there and say, oh, it's more than punching and kicking. We teach life skills. We teach, you know, lessons that people can take forward. So this is a perfect opportunity to add that into what we're doing. So if you think about mat chats, if you think about, you know, life skills and life lessons, we can add that in. If you talk about, you know, anti-bullying, why you shouldn't use violence, you know, how to be more confident, how to approach problems, you know, we can use this as an opportunity to push forward that side of things much more, and that has a huge benefit. Okay, so then moving on top from that, we can look at functional fitness, we can look at skill-based workouts, so we can look at keeping those core skills as well, because as we all know, if we take 3 months off, our skills are going to get less. We need to keep those up, so we can look at repetition skills, we can look at functional fitness, we can look at all of those kind of things to add into the mix as well. So we're starting to build a lot of content that we can start putting together. Okay, and then finally, I would suggest trying to figure out ways to sort of incentivize your membership to sort of stay with you and to keep going. So, you know, the last thing we want at this point is for everyone to just panic and leave, no bills gets paid, and everybody has to shut down. I mean, there'll be nothing to come back to. So it's really important that we find a way to continue and keep giving value. And so we can look to try and make it as interactive as possible. So we can work on the techniques within the syllabus, and we can say this is going to go against your lessons. This is going to count towards your grading. Okay, for the younger guys, we can do, you know, reward sheets and all kinds of stuff, and we can find interactive ways to work with those guys as well. So this is just a couple of ideas of things that you could possibly look to put within your content for your online stuff. I also recommend, you know, looking at ways to do it as a continual library. So not just what can I do now live today, but how can I use those resources moving forward. So if you film everything as well and you keep it, and then you've got a library of techniques and stuff that you can repurpose for other platforms, you can then use further down the line. So it's trying to make a positive from a negative, really, isn't it? So guys, that's kind of it for me for now. I am doing a webinar later on, a free webinar at 9:30, which is for what we're going to look at on there is how to present and ways we can make that better. And sort of basic kit list, things you need, easy ways to get around stuff like that. So I will be doing that webinar live tonight. And also, if any of you got any questions or just want to chat, guys, give me a call, give me a message. I'm more than happy to try and give out whatever information I can for people. And yeah, good luck with it all. Let me know how it goes.